welcome back. Hey, so what I did realize is that when I come on here, you guys don't really know who everybody is because I do a recording audio as well. So I got my son on here with me. His name is JC, and I got my daughter, my youngest daughter, Kennedy. So this is the You Are Dope podcast, and what normally it is my other daughter, Taylor, and I, we're the ones that kind of start the podcast. So we've been doing it now for like, I don't know, a couple years now. But anyway, when you hop on here, YouTube or whatever, that's who these people are, just in case you do not know. So today we're talking about voting, and I'm gonna hop right in it. JC, you were raised by a black man. You have two black sisters. You have a beautiful black wife. What up, Adrena? My grandson is half black. I want you to tell me, how is it possible that you have become a Trump follower?
Wow, that is a wild accusation at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'm definitely not a Trump follower. I am a person who tries to see everybody's opinion, tries to see things from both sides, and I can. Oh, excuse me. I like to look at things objectively, and I feel like each side has their points here and there. But no, I'm not a Trump follower by any means. So
I'm sorry, kiddo. I had to mess with you this morning. I had to get you. Start it off right now. That would be a hell of a podcast, wouldn't it? Like you have all these black people in your family, and you end up being a Trump supporter. Like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, that would be an interesting one.
Sorry, y'all. We all got the sniffles and the coughs. Just Atlanta weather. Yo, Kennedy. So hopping into it with you, baby girl. So this is your first time voting. You are a first time voter. How are you feeling? What is the temperature like there on campus? Are you guys talking about the election season? Like, what is things like that for you right now?
First of all, I'm so honored to be on this podcast, and I'm so honored for it to be my first time voting. To you who don't know, I'm 20 this year, so this will be my first presidential election. I'm very excited. I've been going to the polls every election day since Hillary. So I've been ready. I've been ready to vote a woman into office. And now I'm even more excited to vote a black woman into office. In terms of how it is on campus, you can't walk anywhere without, well, a couple weeks ago, you couldn't walk anywhere without people asking you, are you registered to vote? You could have a couple classes without them asking you, like, hey, what's your voting plan? But overall, like, everyone's talking about it. And I feel like, just because it's a lot of people's first time voting, like, I think people around me understand, like, how important it is to vote. Me personally, I haven't experienced, like, any situation where people have said they're not going to vote. But I do know my friend's class, he said that a lot of people in his class aren't planning to vote. He said about half the class didn't raise their hand when the teacher asked them, are they going to vote? So personally, everyone who I've talked to has told me that they are going to. But I mean, I guess it's still always going to be a handful of people out there who aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that, man. So, but yeah, I remember taking you and Taylor to the polls the first time to come vote with me. And man, I was so excited. And I took him and I was like, yo, we're gonna have the first woman president. The first woman president's gonna be Hillary Clinton. Oh, he was about it. Came home the next day, we was all sad. Like, damn, what happened? It was not a good look. Jay, this is your fifth time voting, right?
Correct.
How does it feel for you? How is it different for you right now, voting going into this election season right now?
So, excuse me. So it's interesting. I think for a lot of people, when you first start off voting, you vote the way that your parents vote, right? That's who influences you a lot. So just being very honest, when I first voted, I was like Democrat, 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 Democrat. That's it. I had a blue ballot, without truly understanding who it was that I was voting for. Now that I voted a couple times, and I've understood the importance of voting, more specifically, voting at your local level. I actually take a lot of time. Me and Adrena do leading up to the election. We will sit down. They have issues on the ballot that you vote for. Like, for instance, they want to do I think it's like a 1% sales tax in Cobb. I think it's either, I don't know if it's Cobb or Georgia, for the next 30 years. And part of it is going to be to fund, I think, transportation. So the bus system. So really just taking the time to learn and read about what are the things that we're voting for, and the candidates, what are they about, who are we voting for. So I think for me, what's different is I focus a lot more on the local level now and really trying to understand the people, the issues, the things they stand for. Um, if they're the incumbent, what is their track record while they're in office? Do I think they're doing a good job? Is it time to get some new ideas or a new person in there? So I think for me that's the biggest change.
Love it, man. So just being educated, educating yourself. There's layers to this stuff. It's not just about the presidency. I mean, it obviously is very important, but like voting at a lower level, man, those are the people that's going to actually like make change. Like you got to really like get into it. It's real levels to this stuff, man. A lot of people don't want you to know about it, but you got to do your research. You got to find out who's what's going on. Kennedy, you tell me this, baby girl. So with Trump being the president or going into this, how are you feeling about the level of intensity that's around your campus right now? Like, how are you feeling with the level of intensity of like people in general?
I would say I honestly felt more. I don't know. I feel like with the first election, like being in high school, and just being around the same people every day, like I don't know. I feel like it was kind of more of like a intense problem then. Like I don't know. I feel like it's still intense now, but it's just like I went to like the vice presidential debate, and it's like in there, like we're just all screaming for like Wallace, and it's like I mean I don't really see a lot of people going for Trump out here, so it's like personally I don't really feel that like I mean, I don't know. I definitely know it's people out there, but I just haven't encountered them. Like, of course, it's like in the back of my mind, like, dang, how many people are really voting for Trump out here? But I haven't even ran into anybody. So it's like, I feel like I go to a very, like, my school is very diverse, and I feel like we all, like, we all, like, we all know what's going on a deeper level. And I think one thing about Georgia State is we all, like, make sure people do their research. We all make sure that people, like, know what's going on. Especially in the government, just because it's a lot of stuff going on, and like we miss a lot of stuff because we're really distracted by just other things that are going on in the world. But I do think that the teachers here and like the people on campus do a good job of making sure that making sure that everyone is doing their research and like paying attention.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting with you, Kennedy, because you go to school in Atlanta. So,
Mhm.
if you were to look at most major, I mean, in general, if you look at a map of the United States, a lot of major metropolitan cities tend to be very liberal. They go blue. And then everything else tends to be red. So if you look at a map of Georgia, it's like you have a red circle in the middle of Georgia, and then everything outside, I mean, a blue circle in the middle of Georgia, and then everything outside of it is red. So yeah, so some of it is like just your environment, which is interesting. Just your environment can kind of skew the way that you like your perception of things. Like you might say like, oh, I don't run into a lot of people that are Trump supporters. But if you were to go out to the country, you would hear, oh, we don't really run into a lot of people that are Harris or Biden supporters, just because of the environment that you're in.
You're absolutely right, man. And I'm just going to piggyback off the question I asked y'all. For me, man, this election feels crazy. Like, it feels like, for real, it really feels like this is like vote or die kind of shit. Like, that's what it really does feel like. People, like, they've been saying that for years and try to, like, scare people into this. But with the way that Trump is, that's some scary shit, man. Like, for real, if he gets reelected and the things that he's trying to do and the division. And I hope that us as a people that we see that, like, he's trying to divide us. And right now we need to come together. Like, as corny as it sounds, it is so true, though. We really need to come together right now. And the more and more he talks, you can just tell he's just trying to divide. He's feeding into a certain demographic, a certain people that really believes that people are out there eating dogs and cats in the United States. Like, there's a certain demographic that really does believe that. And that's who he's feeding into. And you can't tell them people nothing. Like, you can't tell them nothing. Anytime that I ever have a conversation with a Trump supporter, as soon as I talk to them, I'm like, well, why you support him? Because of the economy. And as soon as they say that, I just leave it alone. I can't argue with you. Like, there's no point in me sitting there arguing with you, trying to change your mind about nothing. There's nothing that man can do that you would be like, nah, he's crazy. He can't do nothing. So there's no point.
Yeah.
To kind of play both sides of it. I'll tell you this. I talked to me and my trainer talk about this, about how a lot of people have never had to defend their opinions. And so I think that, while your experience is, I try to talk to Trump supporters and they sound crazy. I'm pretty sure you could find the opposite. Trump supporters who are like, I try to talk to Harris supporters and they sound crazy. Because I think and it's not just about politics, right? I mean, obviously we're talking about voting, but I think just in general, a lot of people have never had to really defend their opinions. And so when you put them in a space where they have to kind of back it with facts and evidence, a lot of people kind of stumble. Which
I'm
it's
done.
interesting to me.
Jokers be anyway. Kenny, how you feel about that? What are your opinion and thoughts about that, baby girl?
I definitely agree with that. I feel like I kind of used to be like that. And I've learned now to like
Be
be
like
more
what? I'm
open.
sorry.
Just be like if someone would have asked me like, okay, Trump did this, like how come you're not supporting him? I would be like, just because I'm voting blue. But I feel like I'm not like that anymore. I just feel like I've learned, especially being in like different classes out here, just learning how to defend myself and learning like critical thinking, learning how to really analyze my political choices. Because it's like, I mean, as much as, I just want to say, okay, I'm just voting blue because I am, like, I have to actually know why. I have to know who I'm voting for. And I thought it was really important how JC said, at a local level, like that's where it matters the most because it really does. Like that's where it honestly affects us the most. And I don't think people understand like the weight of their vote. Like I actually that wasn't like all the way true earlier what I said about I don't know anyone who's not voting. I know some people who have told me like, oh, my vote doesn't matter, so I don't like either candidate, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's so many people that are voting out here, but it doesn't matter. And it's like, honestly, it really does matter. Like, if you have enough people telling you that, okay, well, I'm not going to vote, I'm not going to register to vote just because it doesn't matter, that's going to end up adding up. And honestly, I know so many people like that. Well, I know probably like 3 or 4 people like that. But if me personally, I run into 3 or 4 people, I just can't even imagine that, like, their friends or like who else they're talking to or like just how much more, like how many more people it actually is that aren't voting that think it's not important, but it really is like super important, especially to do your research.
Yeah, I agree. I
Um,
couldn't agree more. I do think that it is. I think that, I mean, from the things that have happened in the past elections, I mean, honestly, I can understand why people think that their votes don't count. You
Mhm.
got people rigging the elections, you got people doing a lot of shit. So I can see why people are like, I'm not voting, it doesn't matter. I guess I look at it from another perspective because I have thought that at times, like, man, it doesn't matter. But then I start to think, like, man, like this sound like real. I'm speaking my age, but I'll be like, man, our ancestors, like they went through a lot of shit, man, so that we can vote. Like we really got
No,
to think
really.
about that. Like it may not mean anything for my vote right now, but I do think about, well, maybe it'll mean something for my grandson later on. Maybe it'll mean
Mhm.
something for my great grandson or great granddaughter after a while. But just to not do anything because I don't see the progress right now, I think it's selfish. So I got to keep going doing what I got to do, and encouraging my kids and encouraging other people, man, you got to get your ass out there and vote. You may not see it right now, but it could mean something later on down the line.
Exactly. And that's one of the only forms of like say that we have. We can complain about all these problems that are going on for like, I mean, forever. But if we're not actually going out and vote, like, do we really have the right to say anything about how our country is run? And it's like, honestly, we really don't because we're given, I don't want to say we're giving a whole bunch of power, but we're given the power to vote. We're given the power to say, I don't like the way that this is run. This is the way that, I want things to be. And if you don't go out and do that, like, you really can't say that you really, I, I guess you can still have an opinion in politics, but you really like, I mean, you're not doing anything about it. So what's the point of complaining?
it's interesting. We're talking about voting and the importance of it. What's our Kemp, our governor, right? So just to
Mm.
give you some examples, about specifically, like for me, I think we touched on it, but honestly, you could argue the local election is much more important than the um at the federal level, like the presidential elections, right? So if you look at Brian Kemp when he ran against Stacey Abrams, he was Secretary of State, right? So what did he do 6 weeks before the election? He purged the voter list. Um, and the one argument is like, he's wrong for doing that. He shouldn't have done it. The other argument is, well, you got to make sure you have a accurate voter list. Well, they're right. You do have to make sure you have an accurate voter list, but you also, in my opinion, need to do it 6 months before an election, so that and you need to notify people so that people have time to correct any inaccuracies. Um, you look at like a Brad Raffensperger, right, who's now our Secretary of State. In the last election, there's the big thing about Trump making the call to Georgia, and he's like, I need 11,000 votes. And Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, is over the election, and he's like, no, like, we're not wavering on this. Like, no, we ran a fair election. There's nothing else we can do. You can look at your sheriffs, right? Your sheriffs are the ones who are in charge of the jails, right? They run the jails. So for somebody who really cares about prison reform, right, you that's something that's very important. That should be very important to you. How does this person run their jails? You look at judges and district attorneys. Okay, well, these are the people who try cases and then sentence people for cases. So once again, if prison reform is very important, a presidential candidate can talk about it all they want, but what's really going to impact you is at the local level, the people that actually try the cases, the people that sentence people once they get convicted of things.
There we go. Let them know, son. Let them know. Hey, y'all, thank y'all so much for coming on here today. I thought this was a dope conversation. I know I really appreciate it. I really hope that this is encouraging anybody out there that is not planning to vote. This is a crucial election right now. Like, and I don't say that lightly. Like, this is crucial. This is crazy what's going on right now. It shouldn't even be like this, but it is what it is. Get your ass out there and vote. I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you to vote smart. Just vote smart. That's it. If you don't do nothing else, just vote smart. So anyway, this is the You Are Dope podcast. I got my baby boy JC Ward on here. Got my daughter Kennedy Colbert. My bad. And we appreciate y'all for tuning in. And remember that you are dope. Go vote. Let's go.